A warning to the far left from across the pond. Democrat John Delaney, the 2020 centrist presidential candidate, says Democrats better pay attention to the trouncing Liberals just took in the UK. He joins us live next. Conservative victory in the UK's Labour strongholds. The spotlight here at home is on progressive presidential candidates and whether or not the UK elections are foreshadowing what's in store for the U.S. next year. Correspondent Garrett Tenney has tonight's 2020 report.
Income and wealth inequality in America today than in any time since the 1920s.
You go down the Labour way of investing in our country, investing to end austerity and redistributing wealth and power in our society in a way that's never been seen before by any government in Britain.
There are differences, but the similarities are clear. A green jobs revolution, a government takeover of major industries, and new federal programs to provide free services, all paid for by massive tax increases on the rich, while the middle class won't have to pay a thing. The Sanders campaign believes that message will help it win back many of the working class voters who voted Republican in 2016 for the first time in decades. The Labour Party's Jeremy Corbyn was hoping for a similar result last week, but instead, working class voters in some of the party's historically strongest areas revolted, handing the Labour Party its worst performance in more than 80 years and prompting Corbyn to announce he won't be running for re-election. While that vote was largely about Brexit, over the weekend, Bernie Sanders tried to distance himself from Corbyn, dismissing questions about any comparisons between them.
Look, Corbyn is Corbyn. The UK elections are the UK elections. We're not quite dealing with Brexit here and the other issues that impact the UK.
But in 2017, Sanders praised the Labour leader, saying there's a real similarity between them.
He has taken on the establishment of the Labour Party, and he has gone to the grassroots, and he has tried to transform that party.
Corbyn is viewed as significantly more progressive than candidates such as Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, but Joe Biden, the top moderate in the Democratic race, is pointing to the UK election as a warning for the 2020 race, telling supporters at a San Francisco fundraiser, look what happens when the Labour Party moves so far to the left. It comes up with ideas that are not able to be contained within a rational basis quickly. Part of the fallout from the UK election is the issue of electability, once again becoming front and center in the Democratic primary, which we will likely hear more about during this next debate on Thursday, though I'm sure your next guest will have something to say about it as well. Shannon?
I'm sure he will. Garrett, thank you.
You got it.
Some say the conservative landslide overseas should be a warning to Democrats here in the U.S., while others note the two elections are very different. So we're going to break that down. Joining me now, Democratic presidential contender, former Congressman John Delaney. Good to have you with us again tonight. Okay, so let's start there. The NBC News had a headline, Corbyn's UK defeat was bad news for Sanders, Warren, and America's left. They say a socialist or very left-leaning message inspired to turn out young voters and unite the working class simply didn't work. It also showed what happens to a party when it becomes primarily an urban party. What message did you take, if any, from last week?
Well, it's a clear warning sign that if we, the Democratic Party, if we go too far left, we risk turning off the center of the country and losing the election. I think what happened in the United Kingdom, the mistake that the Labour Party made, is they looked at Boris Johnson, who was not particularly popular. They looked at Brexit, which was underwater politically, and Johnson is the poster child for Brexit. And they assumed that also translated into the people adopting a socialist agenda. And they clearly didn't. And that's a trap that Democrats could fall into in this country. They could look at President Trump's approval ratings, which aren't particularly good, and assume, well, that does, because of that, we can run on anything we want. That's just not true. This is a center-left or a center-right country, depending upon how the political winds are blowing. And we should be running for the center.
But how worried are you about the power of, like, the squad? I mean, there are congressmen and women out there who are progressively further left and in the field and on the debate stage. And I know for you, you've been running at this for more than a year.
Yep.
And we've talked about how it's harder to gain traction when you're not so polarizing, when you're trying to be more of a centrist. And the candidates and the folks on the Hill who are getting all the headlines and attention, most of them are pretty far left.
And the thing is, they're great. Right? I mean, we're a diverse country in so many ways, including our political voices. And this should be a battle of ideas, and people have all different types of perspectives. But most of the people you're referencing come from districts that are very safe Democrat. In other words, a Democrat's going to win no matter who the nominee is. Where the United States of America, in many ways, is a purple country. It's like a purple state or a purple congressional district, We need candidates who can capture the center to win a purple congressional district, a purple state, or a purple country. And it's so obvious. That's how Democrats flipped the House in 2018. We flipped a whole bunch of Trump districts by running people who focused on kitchen table, pocketbook issues, put forth real solutions, not these impossible promises, and captured the center. That's how we win in 2020.
Do you think the party's losing sight of that?
Absolutely.
Okay, and you worry they're being pulled too far left?
Part of it is the way this primary is played out. You know, historically, Iowa, New Hampshire played a very important role. They kick the tires. You know, we go to people's living rooms.
You spent a lot of time there.
I mean, I've been to every county in Iowa. There's 99 of them. I'm the only one who's done that. But this race became nationalized very early. You know, the DNC contributed to that. They had this debate qualification standard that you had to get all these small dollar donations. Most small dollar donations to the Democratic Party come from California and New York. So if you're actually campaigning to make the debate stage, you're actually sending a message to folks in California and New York to give you money. That's a more left-leaning message than actually what you should be campaigning on to win the heartland.
Okay, quickly, how concerned are you should Senator Sanders or Senator Warren become the nominee versus President Trump?
Well, I think it's a concern. I think they risk not winning the center. And I think, you know, President Trump won the center in 2016. People don't realize that. If you look at the exit polls and you ask moderates or independents who they voted for, they overwhelmingly broke for Trump. You fast forward to 2018, you ask folks who they voted for, the center and moderates broke towards the Democrats because we put forth these candidates who ran on these kitchen table issues. So I think in 2020, if we put forth a nominee who is running on making private health insurance illegal, right, and 160 million Americans have private health insurance. You know, that's just not good. I've been warning about that from the beginning. I mean, you don't win elections by taking things away from people.
Especially if you're not explaining how you're going to pay for what results from that. Okay, we'll see you out there on the campaign trail. John Delaney, thank you so much for dropping in. Always good to talk with you.
Merry Christmas to you.
And you too.